The founders of Desert Rose were two Baha'is, but it was Mr. and Mrs. Sears. They founded it in 97. And it was a farm out in the middle of the desert that was farmed by corporate farming. And individuals got together and they purchased it and they started the Desert Rose Baha'i Institute. It was a center for arts and agriculture, and that was the vision for it. General Eloy was a prominent figure in the Baha'i faith, and some of his descendants actually put up donations in that to help get the farm started. And the board elected to name the agricultural portion of the institute after General Eloy. So basically, I grew up on a small farm in Illinois. I was one of four boys, and we were surrounded by generational farms, 1,000-acre farms, and we started out to be 160 acres, but my dad sold it all off at 25. He considered himself a country farmer. During the summer, all of the surrounding farms, they had their pick of boys to choose from to help them on the farm, and that was our summer jobs. I actually didn't care too much for farming. I was more interested in working on the equipment. I joke and say that I spent 40-some years getting away from the farm and ended up here at Desert Rose because their agricultural program basically hadn't really started. And I became a board member and realized that we have 20 acres here that we could set up farms. And I asked the board if I could put the infrastructure in for the farms. And so that's how I came to Desert Rose, basically. I consider myself more of an infrastructure man, putting the systems together. I've been in aviation all my life, and there's a lot of complicated systems in aircraft, as you know. So that was my whole thrust, how I thought I could help. And we had some donors come in and get the program started. Well, Desert Rose is in the middle of three towns. And those towns we talk about, you hear a lot about it today, and you're going to hear more about it, is food scarcity. And if we had any type of issue with one store, we would have to travel 20 miles to get any type of food. And with the community surrounded Desert Rose, it's a perfect spot that we could have community gardens. And the vision is to, number one, have small community plots, which you're going to see. And that could be individuals in the community who wants to have their own garden, but don't have the space for it, or nonprofits like food banks and that want to lift people up, show them how to garden themselves, and that they can come out and lease a small patch of land. And we have the infrastructure to support that, to teach them how to use, or we would actually use it for them and start them out on gardening. As an example, we have one gentleman who is working with a nonprofit in Haiti, and he has leased the first plot. He started out with just 1,000 square feet. I think he's up to about 4,000 square feet, and he plans to expand it to 9,000 square feet. And they run a school in Haiti called the Barefoot School. So that's pretty interesting. That was kind of the proof of concept for us. The farming methods that we've been incorporated in the United States and in a lot of places around the world basically is row crops. And in this area, they use a lot of artificial fertilizers, and they'll flood, irrigate. It's through the canal system that's been around since the Hohokam Indians. And the problem with that is it will actually draw out the salts from the earth. They will till land until they can't harvest it anymore, or they get real low yields, and then they'll move on. We have a system set up that we make our own soil. And as you'll see, we have piles of debris that we harvested from the main campus, and we will take that and turn it into soil. At the same time, because we're in the desert and water conservation is very important, we've took a method that's used over in Europe called hugelkultur, and we will build mounds. We'll dig holes in the ground, trenches basically, and we will fill them with trees, shrubbery that we get, and then cover them. And basically, because we have 2 rainy seasons, we only get 12 inches of rain a year, 6 in each season. And that becomes a battery, if you would say. It absorbs the water into the trees, and it will slowly give off nutrients and moisture for the surrounding area. We plant trees on the ogle mounds, and if you'll notice around the campus that we have some trees that are 20 years old and haven't received any water, but yet they're flourishing. I mentioned before that we make our own soil. We have other amendments that we do. We also make biochar and process that pretty interesting process and how it came about. It basically is so porous that it will absorb in nutrients and water, and actually the plants will feed off of this. The other condiments that we'll use is called compost tea, and we make that here as the video will show you. Basically, it's made up of worm castings, alfalfa, some molasses, and it puts nitrogen into the soil, brings the soil and plants back to life, and it's really working out for us, as you'll see. I went to back in 19 started a course by Jeff Lawton, permaculture. And Jeff Lawton got his start from Bill Mollison, who's kind of considered the father of permaculture. In communities like this, small communities, you can grow, whether it's in your backyard, on a community lot. You can start this and you can grow your own vegetables, but you got to get them to market. And in our environment here, the farmers market and that are on the weekends. Well, if you're harvesting your crops on Monday, you have a lot of spoiled crops. And so what we're in the process of doing to mitigate that is to build coolers. And because we're out here, we don't have electricity to the farm. We depend on solar power. And as you'll see in the video, we have solar power to run our pumps for our water systems. And basically, we'll have solar power for our coolers. And the coolers will allow the vegetables to rest, if you would say, up until the weekend. And because of our partnership that we have with Black Orchard Farms, they come out and will do the market for us. So future plans, you saw out there that we had the two containers. One is, of course, for the cooler, and the other one's going to be our grow for the mushrooms. And you saw the video of the pond, and that's going to be our learning system of aquaponics. And we'll have floating aquaponics. We also have tilapia in the pond right now. Those are going to be the future um, add-ons, additions that we have. We're also putting in a some people are calling it a Zen garden, some are calling it a meditation garden, but basically raising flowers, hibiscus, a nice type of meandering walkway with benches and that people can come from the memorial gardens and actually sit there um, in an area part of the farm. I think for anyone that wants to get started in farming, whether they are doing it in their backyard or what, there's so many references on the internet, YouTube videos. I would search permaculture, and Jeff Lawton is a good source. If you will just type in "greeting the desert," his name will come up, and watch the videos and watch the different villages in the Middle East, what they're doing, individuals in those villages. It's incredible, and it's really inspired us here too. I think that um, the future of farming will change in our lifetime drastically. Community gardens will be in the actual city, downtown, if you would say, area, a gathering place for the people. I see it as a sense of community, and really the stakeholder in the whole community will be the farmer.